All right, guys, so we are pulling up to this house, and John and I have never even seen this house. I made it a point, like, not to look at it because I wanted to have like an original reaction. But from what Brent is saying, this thing is pretty outstanding, so we're about to find out. But before we get into that, I want to let you guys know about something that Brent and I and his son Jackson actually have been working on in the background for the past several months. I'm so excited about this. It's a thing that we call Passion for Craft, and it's a page we're setting up on Patreon. If you guys want to go check it out, you basically can go sign up and you're going to get access to all kinds of cool stuff. So on that page, you're going to find that we have 3 levels of membership, all with different benefits, but I'll give you guys a quick rundown of what's going on over there. You're going to have access to the community at the entry level, and you'll have access to our podcast. I can't even believe it. We started a podcast. This is awesome. I don't know. I never thought I'd be doing a podcast, much less hosting one. I'm going to give you a preview of that right here.
Yeah, I'm Jackson. I have 0 experience with carpentry.
I studied at a school for historic preservation in Boston and learned about how things were built, 250 years ago.
There's a long way to go. I'm nowhere near the top. Not that I thought I was, but there's so much more to do out there. So as you can see, guys, those podcasts are very highly produced. They're gonna have video with them, crystal clear audio, also images of what we're talking about. Really excited about that. And if you're on all the podcast platforms, you'll also see us on there as well, but it will come out first on our Passion for Craft page. Another benefits that we have are, I'm gonna make myself available to you guys. So I'm gonna be available for FaceTime consulting for those of you who sign up for the master level. So we've got an apprentice, a journeyman, and a master. Jackson is kind of the new guy. He's like the apprentice. And I'm the journeyman. I kind of know a little bit, but I'm definitely no master. And Brent is the master. He's a internationally recognized master builder. Tons of knowledge. You're gonna get access to that. It's super cool. Those are just some of the benefits, guys. So one last one I'll share with you before we get on this house tour is if you sign up, we're launching this Black Friday. If you sign up between now and Black Friday, we are going to send you our first shirt. It's an exclusive shirt. It's got our Passion for Craft logo on the left chest, and on the back, it's got a pediment layout. It's super, super cool. Man, this has been like a dream of mine to be able to do this and not only, produce it, but the team that we put together, Brent, Jackson, the producers who make this content for us. This is awesome. So link at the top of the description, go over there, check it out. You're not gonna be disappointed. And as far as the location of this house, we're basically in downtown Fort Worth, essentially like pretty much in the middle of the city. And that's usually where a lot of historic houses would be, right? Because they're starting that city. It's kind of the central location. So typically I like to look at downtown areas because you see a lot of awesome architecture and craftsmanship. So here we are. Is that it? Wow, look at this.
I thought we would geek out to just kind of the details and just walk through it. You're gonna be blown away. It's gonna be fun to see your reaction. The other thing that's funny, or that's kind of fun, is that Yellowstone, the TV show, is using 2 of the rooms in here to act as the historic governor's mansion in 1883. Cool. So they've got it set up in there, and we'll be able to see the 2 governor's offices rooms in this historic mansion. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Also, we got a special treat for you guys today. We got the man, the myth, the legend himself, the Greek god, Mr. Brent Hull, here to show us this old historical house, which is beautiful, by the way.
What you're going to see here, this is kind of an 1890s house, so late Victorian. This is would be considered a Queen Anne Victorian. Architectural detail is like, turned up to 11. Notice all the materials and details here. We got sandstone rusticated base, then we've got sandstone columns and balustrades that have all been turned, okay? Wow. And we've got this copper roof, which is obviously decorative, and copper urns and finials and lightning rods. The brickwork's incredible. Sandstone coins around around the windows. You know, to build this house today is millions and millions and millions of dollars. You know, back then they probably built this for, you know, $60,000. And so,
that's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so you're going to be blown away when you see the trim on the inside.
Well, I'm excited to see it. Let's go in.
Yeah. All right, so we're going in. There's a little vestibule right here, but you begin to see sort of the trim work that's in here.
I mean, already.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Okay, so coffered ceiling, right?
Yeah.
Coffered ceiling, really small coffers.
Yeah,
you know,
very small coffers.
What do you think?
With
like
beading.
18-inch by
16 on the panel, maybe 18 to the outside or 20 to the outside.
It's overwhelming. So this is Victorian millwork, right? Victorian carpentry.
Yep.
This is like an original. Everything in here is basically how it was.
Yeah, so this house got given over by the family to Historic Fort Worth and to the Junior League, actually, I think 1960s or so, 70s maybe. The Junior League had it, and then they gave it to Historic Fort Worth. And so there is some original furniture around, but all the interior, all this stuff is completely original.
I mean, let's zoom in on something here. Because
Okay, well here I got a trick for you.
Okay.
Okay, so we worked on this house, and we did repairs. We've done different stuff here. In this ceiling up here, I'm not going to point to too much. There's a clue that something's been added later. In this area right here.
Okay, in the foyer.
See if you can see it.
Okay, so it looks like. I don't know. You guys must have did a good job.
Well, we didn't see it either. It's actually right here. There's a bathroom above here, but well, now I can't. Now I can't see it.
You did such a good job.
These three panels right here don't look like these other panels. Okay, and so this is new oak that's been done. And basically, what happens is there's a bathroom above this. Mm-hmm. It started leaking. And they started getting water damage in here, and we had to come in and we had to carefully peel out all that coffered ceiling and those beads. And there was like a dead rat, and there was other kind of dirt that was coming down on us. But then those panels, if you look closely, this panel right there is different from that panel. So this is like quarter sawn.
I see that, yeah.
And this is like rift sawn oak. The grain is a little bit wider here than it is here. Mm-hmm. And so we realized later, because they had drywall screws in them, that they had, like in the 80s, had repaired it, but hadn't repaired it well enough, so we had to go in and do it again. But anyway, it was kind of a fun thing that we didn't see at first, but then when we got up there, we were like, oh look, they changed this, because that drywall screw was like, what is a drywall screw doing in this panel? If we just look at this whole thing, basically they've got custom floors called wood carpets. Okay, you're going to see a change of material. This is quarter sawn oak. This is maple. Okay, that's pretty typical at Thistle Hill. Remember, they have a bird's eye maple bedroom, and then they have a mahogany bedroom.
I haven't been there. That's our next stop.
That's our next stop.
Another awesome house here in town.
Yeah, another awesome house. But now we've got maple, right? And so it's the same kind of organization, but instead of going with quarter sawn oak, we've got a maple in here. And that was pretty typical in the Victorian period. You see things like that.
Okay, this crown right here is blowing me away. It's essentially a gigantic cove.
Yeah.
And people today, like they do these moldings that are that big, but they're done like plaster, paint grade.
No, that's right.
I'm seeing over here in this corner where it's separating a little bit how they built this.
Yeah.
So you've got essentially, what do you think, that's tongue and grooved all together?
Yeah, I think so.
And how do you think they kind of got it to do that cove? They just angled the tongue and groove?
It doesn't, it looks like each piece is curved a little bit. Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
And so I suspect they milled it that way. But it's a great detail. And then of course you see this is a really common historic molding, but see how this picture's held up? with those clips.
Oh yes, yeah.
So that's a picture mold, right? And so, you know, if you've ever kind of wondered what a picture mold was, there it is, and that's how it works. And so all these moldings in this period would have had this little clip so that you could hang a picture like this.
Is the thought behind that is like, I have this wallpaper, I don't want to put a nail into it?
Or plaster.
Okay.
You put a hole in plaster and pull a nail out and it goes everywhere.
Oh yeah, it blows out.
The other thing that's interesting about this right now, this is obviously, you got Indians, you got a moose head, you've got this leather couch. What do you think's going on in here?
I don't know.
So Yellowstone, right, was filmed there's been parts of it that, and especially that 1883, was filmed in Fort Worth. And so this is going to be on the next season of Yellowstone, the governor's mansion. And
this is it.
Yeah, this is it. So that's why there's the Indians' heads and their stuff. So it's going to be, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's meant to look like a, you know, Montana or a Wyoming, you know, lodge kind of decor. But in 1883, or in, you know, that period, late Victorian, this kind of architecture in really nice houses would have shown up in houses all over the country, because a lot of this was made in mills and it wasn't made on site. It would have been shipped out and, you know, delivered, and so most of this would come from a mill.
So the mantle in this room, this maple room, is outstanding. This is probably one of my favorite mantels I've ever seen. I say that in every old house I go into, but seriously, look at the layout of what we have here. We have just traditional order, classical order, based here, pedestal, supporting this urn shape. This is almost like a flower that's about to bloom. It's just so cool. So this comes out like that. Then the column is kind of this spiral shape that spins, has a lot of movement to it. So then you come up here, this is the capital. This is an ionic capital with these volutes. They come out at 45-degree angles. So no matter which way you look at this column, you're seeing a beautiful detail and it's catching all the light. On top of that, we have our entablature, this whole organization here. It's mind-blowing. This looks like it's just something the Greeks would have built, like a stone temple, which is where all this stuff comes from. You can actually come to this place. You can come and take a tour of this and come see this in person if you're in the area. It just speaks volumes. The camera cannot ever do this kind of stuff justice. You got to come see it.
So this is still part of the governor's mansion, but now, you know, you also see this compartmentalization, right? You've got that little hearth area, the parlor, another parlor, a dining room. And so as we walk through here, these two rooms are what's going to be used for Yellowstone. But you know, now we're back to oak in here, right? So we got maple to oak, and so, you know, maybe that's the women's withdrawing room, maybe this is the men, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so
those pocket doors, right?
Yeah, they are.
Let's look at this. Oh wow.
And notice we've got maple on one side and oak on the other, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, really thought out. Sweet. I mean, there you go. These dang old houses, you know?
Yeah, and then you see right there would have been curtains in between these things, so they would have hung curtain rods.
It's
and
like
so
a little sheer,
yeah, a little
just
sheer.
So you get the light, but
exactly.
privacy.
Yeah, you'll see that the floors are changing too.
Yeah.
And these are in the catalogs, they're called wood carpets. And so you would actually order these and they would come rolled up and you roll them out. So they'd be built to the size of this room and then kind of cut in a corner like that.
Wait, so this isn't real wood?
It is. It's but they make it in a factory and they kind of roll it up to ship it out, as opposed to shipping it out as a big flat piece.
Yeah.
It's on a kind of a backer, and then it's really thin pieces, and then they just roll it up into rolls like this big, and that's how they would have shipped it out.
So someone didn't really physically put...
In the factory they did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So on someone's desk, right, in the factory, they would have taken, right, the oak, and then the different types of oak, the walnut here, the maple, and, you know, laid all this out. Then chopping and cutting and putting all this together on a backer piece that was about this wide. And then they would have just made these in long sheets, building these things together, and then in order to ship them out, they would have rolled them up.
That's so
which is
wild.
Kind of crazy.
So how thick do you think that is, that the layer that we're
probably
seeing?
3/8. The total thickness, the wood's probably, you know, around a quarter.
Okay.
Maybe a little less.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Nothing like that is really done today.
No, I know.
So like Brent was saying, you kind of read these rooms and you feel like a certain way. And that's a very high style, that mantle we just looked at. This is kind of a step down from that. You can see these pillars here, they're squares, they're not columns. They still have this decorative kind of characterized ionic up here, and that's kind of the highlight of it. But this is like one that I can build, okay? So it's dressed down quite a bit. It's basically a box beam mantle, box beam legs, and then moldings wrapping around. So you can see how going from that mantle to this one is very different.
And then, you know, this is the dining room, so you've got really great built-ins, right, on either side. This was, like, in the 1890s, you really didn't have kitchens because they were servants area. And you're going to see that when we go back, because right behind that wall, everything goes to paint grade. You got a servant stair, you got the formal stair, and so it was really a different way of living back then. These would have been the nicest cabinets that would have come from a mill shop.
Yeah.
Not paint grade cabinets.
With those columns supporting and
The
everything.
brackets and the dental. I mean, just all of this stuff. It's pretty rocking.
I always like when millwork inside can include some type of column, like, you know.
Yeah, I know. I do too.
Let's talk about this wainscot right here. This essentially is almost like a miniature version of what we're seeing up on the ceiling in this wainscot layout with these panels here. One unique detail I'm seeing is this flute here is kind of on a pulvination type.
Yep.
Would you call that a frieze?
I would, because I think this is basically a little mini entablature. You don't have the full architrave underneath. You just have the top of the architrave, but then your pulvinated frieze, and then your cornice here. It's not, you know, according to the canons of the books or anything, but
it's based on it.
It's based on it, right? The proportions are based on it. The kind of the layout is based on it. And what is it doing? It's capping a pedestal, right? So you've got your pedestal base, your body of your wainscot, and then a little cornice. And so it's a really formal way of treating a wainscot.
So we're in the dining room. We have another mantle, and it's even more dressed down. You basically have like a flat stock profile with a little trim piece running around where this tile is. And this tile, by the way, is gorgeous. Little tiny, like Roman style bricks. I would install this around my mantle today. This is super cool. Never seen anything like it. Super tight joints, no grout in there. But yeah, this is just a flat board. You've got these kind of brackets supporting another flat board, very minimal profile, and then just a little, you know, carving right here. Beautiful mantle still, but you see how it's like high style, medium, and then low. So just kind of cool how you can step into one house and see, even though it's a Victorian, even though it's ornate, they still kind of followed the rules of like, hey, let's emphasize this area and let's de-emphasize this area.
So now you're in, look at the floors. We've gone to a pine floor, right?
We've just stepped into my house.
So this is now the butler's pantry, right? So this would be, that door would always be closed. This now is paint grade material. You see it's still dressed up, right? But
gorgeous,
but it's painted. You got the cabinets. This is where the china would have come from. And notice there was a lock on this so that they could keep the riffraff out of here.
We're stepping down and everything.
And you're now in the back hall, right? Because now you've got a different kind of wainscot, the beaded wainscot in this kind of service stair hall.
Yeah, no, this is, I mean,
cool.
even for being like a servant's area, something that's a step below. I mean, look, you're seeing that same return.
Look at all this trim. I mean, there's 5 feet of trim right in this wainscot. It's crazy.
And you could almost just take this and copy it exactly and be set.
No doubt. And I mean, so one of the things I learned from this is, like, we're making wainscot today. We'll do it with beaded wainscot. They had so many different varieties because basically they got this board and then this board, and they alternate these boards or whatever that kind of layout is. And we find that in these courthouses and stuff where they alternate backs and fronts and everything else just to give variety.
So taking a closer look at this molding buildup is really like something we would see today. It's not too out of the ordinary. I get a lot of requests for buildups like this from inspirational pictures. But one thing I wanted to point out is in this wainscot. It's a very tall wainscot, but they took the return around and wrapped it onto the casing. Now we've done that multiple times, and it's cool to see like, hey, we're doing something that used to be done in a craft way. Because if you ever have come into this situation where you have a cap that hits a casing and there's no back band on that casing, it's just going to be a straight cut. So the way to do it, to give it some charm, is to go ahead and wrap the top of that profile around and let it look like, you know, it's an organic look to it, like it was meant to be, rather than just a hard cut or like a back cut, like 22.5-degree back cut. It's probably the best solution besides this, but still, this is kind of taking it to that next level.
You've got basically 4 bedrooms. This would have been a bedroom. There's a bathroom through there, closet here. Look what they've done with the picture rail here. And this is one of the things I've been talking about. Why do you think they did the picture rail that low?
Because they're trying to communicate the entablature.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the top of the architrave. It's called the tinea. And then that middle section is the frieze, and then you've got your cornice above. But this is what I would say, that picture rail can move up and down in these historic houses, and it's meant to convey scale.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you can, for different ceiling heights, you would then adjust it accordingly.
Now, in my mind, that picture rail's dropped down really low, and so it's exaggerating that frieze. And so, you know, if I was going to do this, I might go up 6 inches or so.
Yeah.
You'd have to see where it would hit on these other things, but that's exactly what's happening, and you don't always see that.
So again, we have another mantle in here. Every room in this house, basically, that's a bedroom, has a fireplace. It's really cool, and a fireplace is a very unique position to be able to show off some craft, and that's often done with mantels. And I thought this one was stone when I first saw it, but you can knock on it, you can hear it's wood, but it's got like this faux finish on it. It looks like it was some kind of stone. It even has like roundness to it, so pretty cool. This one, very unique design. It looks like someone was just kind of like letting their creativity go, because I've never seen a mantle like this. So very unique, looks pretty cool, and it's just one of those things, if you go into these historic houses, it just opens up your mind, because you're like, man, I could do this, or I could do that, or remember that time that. And I highly recommend, if you do come to one of these, I mean, everyone has a phone, take tons of pictures, because you'll be inspired, and something you can pull back up later and be like, I want to do it that way.
Quite the place.
Yeah, that was super cool. Thanks for taking us on another one of these tours. It's very insightful. It's cool.
It's inspirational for everybody, right? I come here, you know, I've been here 30 times, and I still see new stuff. I'm like, oh, I never noticed that before. It opens your eyes to the opportunity that's available for craftsmanship, and what we're building is it's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. Well, I really appreciate it. Make sure, if you guys aren't following Brent, I'll leave his link at the top of the description to his channel. Go click subscribe. You're not going to want to miss the stuff he's putting out. He's going to Winterthur, which if you don't know what that is, then that's exactly why you need to go subscribe to him. Talk about mind-blowing, every period of American building, all wrapped up in that. And I know you just finished a tour there, and I've been watching those videos. They're amazing. So Brent, thanks for
buddy.
your time.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. And
we'll
we're going to do more of these, absolutely.
All right, cool.